I used to think that my personality was so boring that I couldn't attract the women that I wanted. I was always comparing myself to extroverted friends and social media personalities, and I thought that I just couldn't measure up, and it ruined my confidence. And then I had an experience that changed everything. Okay, I want to tell you the story of how I learned that women actually are turned on by guys who are slightly boring, and you don't even need to be a very interesting or flamboyant guy. You just need to possess this one masculine trait that I'm going to reveal later in this video. So it all begins really around elementary school when I'm a giant nerd. I'm in the chess club, I'm in the math club, I'm reading competitively. Like I'm trying to read the most books in my elementary school class to get the most points for clout. Okay, that's how much of a nerd that I was. Huge introvert still to this day, believe it or not. Okay, and so once again, I was always comparing myself to people that were in my class. I remember one day specifically in PE class, we're sitting in the gym and they're taking attendance, and there's this one popular tall athletic kid named Blake who's sitting next to me, and he looks over at me and he says, "Joseph, just be yourself, man. Just be yourself." And that really struck deep because I knew that I wasn't being myself, that I was trapped, and that I was trying to do a lot of extra stuff to get attention, to get people to like me. And so that's really where I started off from. Fast forward to really around the age of 18, I started to take social skills, learning communication more seriously. I started learning game, okay? And as I'm going through this process of basically watching a lot of videos online, I took 6 online dating courses, reading books. I started watching all of this infield. Okay, I'm not going to mention specifically who is from. You probably know him, very popular guy. So I started watching this infield, and there was a very flamboyant personality, very extroverted. And when I saw this infield footage, which is, if you don't know, a video of a guy, out in a nightclub or out on the street talking to women, cold approaching women. And this guy was extremely entertaining. Like the stuff that he was saying to women blew my mind, very polarizing. He was saying stuff that, would get you canceled, would get you fired if you were to say it at a job. Some of these things were very graphic and sexual, and he had this very entertaining personality, right? And so when I saw this and I sort of saw how entertaining it was, I decided, okay, that's who I want to become. That's who I want to be like. And so I start to act very extroverted. I started to essentially, what I learned to do was to capture attention by putting on a performance. So because I was so used to going up to women, being blown off, feeling insecure about myself, I thought that the solution was attention. Attention at any cost. Doesn't even matter if it's actually making me look low value. Doesn't matter if the sub communication that's coming across with what I'm doing is really like, oh, he's being needy. He's putting on a show. He wants to sell himself to me. I didn't understand that I was doing that at the time. And so that's exactly what I was sub communicating to women. All right, and I didn't know it. I didn't know why I was able to get phone numbers. I didn't know why because look, I knew all of the theory. I knew everything. I know everything there is to possibly know about how to do this stuff. But the thing is, so I was getting into these long interactions. I was flirting. I was confident, or at least I thought I was, portraying myself to be. And I was getting numbers. They were giving me their number, okay? They were even laughing at me, laughing at what I was doing. And I wasn't going on many dates though. That's the problem. Because at the end of the day, what this about is not holding attention. It's not about theory. It's not about getting numbers. What this is about is, at the end of the day, creating attraction, being the most attractive version of yourself, and then creating a connection with that girl. Like, that's the end goal, right? It's to actually get on a date or hang out with that girl, have a romantic connection, date a beautiful woman, go on adventures. The possibilities are great. It's great to have. But my goal was to hold attention. All right, and I didn't realize why this was happening for the longest time. It threw me for a loop, and it frustrated me, it confused me, until one fateful day. Okay, so one fateful day, a few years ago, I had a very long day of work. And at the time, I actually had a window cleaning business. So I was cleaning people's windows residentially, and I was also pressure washing. So it was a very long day of work where I worked very hard. I did a bunch of jobs, and I was so tired. At the end of the day, I had done so much work, but I still, I felt really good. I felt like I was in a winning mindset, because I had a pretty good day. And I decided I was gonna go to the bookstore because I'm still a nerd, right? I still read, and so I go to the bookstore, and there's a pretty, she's a cute looking girl who's working at this bookstore. This is like a small bookstore. It's not like a Barnes and Nobles, and she's the only one working there as the cashier, and it's very empty. And so I'm like, okay, this is the perfect opportunity. Like, if you're a beginner, you might know, like, it's a lot easier to just talk to one girl, when you don't have a ton of confidence with this yet, than it is to talk to like a group of women or two or three women, right? And especially when there's nobody around. That's a huge thing that a lot of guys have too, is they don't want people to see them, right? So this was a perfect opportunity for me where I could just, try to talk to this girl and see what happens. And so because, I'm so tired, and because I'm in a bookstore where I'm used to just being a bit more quiet, and she's also an employee, I really noticed that my energy was a lot more reeled back. Like, I was just sort of like boring, really. I was just like, hey, by the way, I thought you were cute. And she was flattered. She was like, thank you so much. And she was genuinely appreciative of this. And so I kept talking to her. Um, I flirt with her a little bit. We're sitting on this bench in the bookstore, and we're talking about music. We're talking about books, flirting a little bit, connecting, and it's going great. And I'm barely even trying, really. I'm just being normal. Like, as I'm talking to you right now, would be a similar vibe. And so we end up talking for, I think, 20 minutes. And it's very clear she's interested in me based off of the way she's looking at me, based off of how she's asking me a lot of questions and things of that nature. And either way, I'm going to close. So I close her and I get her number, and then we go on a date. And then we go on 2 dates. Now, I end up not dating this girl, but this still was an experience that um, changed a lot for me, because what had happened was sort of like, how when an inventor sort of figures out a new discovery by accident? Like, I think whoever founded LSD, was it somebody named Albert Hoffman or something? I don't know. Somebody's gonna have to let me know in the comments. I'm not really that much, I'm not into that kind of stuff, to be real with you. But I think he was mixing some chemicals together, and then he magically created some LSD and he went on a bike ride and he realized he was tripping. I don't know, once again, but that's what I felt like. Okay, I had just come up with this discovery by accident because the situation had forced me into being a bit more boring, being a bit more just like normal and laid back. Okay, and it worked better. Okay, it worked better because I got a date. I was able to form a connection with a girl. I was more attractive that way. All right, so what I learned from this was the masculine trait that all men need to have, which no dating coach ever talks about on YouTube, but is important, very important. And I'll just say right now, there's not one trait that's going to be a magic bullet for you, but it's a collection of traits that you want to optimize to be the most attractive version of yourself, right? If that makes sense. And that trait is, it's emotional strength. It really is emotional strength. And I'm going to give you 4 different ways that men who want to be the most attractive, they want to really magnetically draw women in, need to have emotional strength in an interaction with a girl. And so, one thing that happens in an interaction with a girl is, and if you've ever, approached any amount of women, you already know this. This is more for the guys who don't know. But what happens is the girl doesn't know you. Okay, so you know that you're not a threat. You're a gentleman, right? You know that you're cool. You're non-needy. That you're an awesome guy. Now, the girl, she doesn't know that. You are a guy who just walked up to her, out of the blue and started a conversation. And so what's going to happen with a lot of women is they're going to be sort of closed off when you walked up to them. And I would say the majority of women who are attractive are going to act in this way. You're going to say an open, you're going to introduce yourself, right? Or say whatever you want to. And she's going to be giving you very short answers. You're going to ask her, hey, what are you up to? And she's going to say, oh, not much. And then she's just going to sort of look at you. And so what she's doing is she's feeling you out, and she's putting a little bit of pressure on you to see if you can actually keep talking, to see if you're, a safe guy to be around, that you're not weird. Okay, so it's gonna take you, and so what will happen with a lot of guys, and I see this with my clients, they tell me this, newer clients, when this happens to them, they become discouraged, right? A girl gives them one, skeptical look like this. The girl is a bit closed off and they become discouraged. They start to become self-conscious. I've even seen these videos on a social media platform where this guy is going up to women. It's one of these Ray-Ban Meta videos where it's like Riz lines and they're trying to like close a girl in 60 seconds, which are all fake, by the way. None of those numbers actually lead to dates because it was such a short interaction. They're using gay Riz lines. But I see one of these guys online, and so he's going up to women and he's using his open, and the women are, being, there's the shield up, like always, like normal, how it's supposed to be, right? And the guy, so he'll say his open, he's like, hey, I thought you were beautiful, want to come say hi, right? Something very basic. And the girl's like, thanks, and looks at him. He asks her another question. He's like, oh, so are you from around here? And she's like, yeah. And he's like, cool. Well, see you later. And then he walks away. And so I don't know if I painted that picture clear enough. But what was happening is the caption of the video was like, oh, just don't give them any attention if they don't want to contribute or they don't want to. So essentially, this guy was misinterpreting this as women like playing hard to get or being feminist or playing games or being difficult or not interested in him, when really he just was socially unaware. And it was so pathetic to see. And he posted a string of these videos, okay? And so I'm getting off on a tangent right now, but what I'm saying is these kind of guys who are emotionally reactive, they become insecure in the beginning because they haven't reached the hook point where the girl can see that you're cool. They're going to fail every time because they don't have an understanding and because they're insecure and they can't keep talking. So a part of this is being able to just keep talking. Guys, this is such a big part of attracting women, is just being able to spend more time with a girl and stay in there. Stay in the pocket and not spike the ball too early. All right? Because the more time that you spend in the interaction, the less nervous you're going to be. Okay, initially you're going to be very nervous. Over time, you're going to relax. Okay, you're going to get used to it in that individual interaction. The more connection that you're going to create over time, the more you're going to be able to showcase your personality over time. All of these things. But you can never do this if you can't keep talking, if you can't express yourself. This is one of the number one things that I'm able to help my clients with that has one of the biggest changes in their dating lives, actually. And we do a plethora of exercises that I actually work with them directly on. Now, the second reason you need to have emotional strength in an interaction with a woman is because women are going to test you. Women are going to test you, and once again, in the same way that that guy on Instagram who was prematurely ejecting out of the interactions was getting insecure based off of how the girl was being closed off, is the same way that a lot of guys will become emotionally reactive when a girl tests them. And not understanding the fact that it is a part of female nature and it is a part of the game. This is just how things work. Women are going to test you. It's a part of evolution. It's a part of how they're evolutionary programmed. They need to do this because think about it. In order for a woman to be attracted to you, there needs to be something in her brain that says, okay, because attraction is the mechanism that would make the girl want to, sleep with you, right? To be with you. And so if she's going to sleep with you, wouldn't she want it to be with a guy who is strong, who isn't going to see a bear in nature and start crying and start curling up on the floor and not being able to protect her or do anything to protect the tribe from, invaders? But a girl can't be attracted to you if you're weak, right? She has to hold your baby for 9 months, raise your baby for, 18 years nowadays, right? And you're expecting, you have to be strong. Okay, and so that's why women have these tests, and they're going to test you a lot. Especially, they're going to test you a lot, especially if you're confident. If you like to be a little bit cocky, like me. I like to joke around. I like to say things to women like, I'm so much wiser than you. I'm so out of your league. As a joke, teasing, all right? But when I say stuff like that, women test me. They test me hard. Okay, they're going to try to poke holes at me to make me frame me as being a nerd or frame me as being beta. They're gonna ask me, oh, how much money do you make? That's a test. I've been asked this a lot, okay? You're not supposed to, They're gonna see if you're gonna start bragging about yourself right there, or are you gonna respond, oh, I make $2.50 an hour, which is the correct response to that question. Now, the third area that you need to have emotional strength in an interaction with a woman is you need to be comfortable with creating tension with the girl. You need to be comfortable with actually teasing the girl, looking at a girl in her eyes, complimenting a girl, touching a girl in a non-harassing way. Of course, make sure she's comfortable, my friends. But most guys aren't comfortable with this. Most guys aren't comfortable with any sort of flirting, any sort of teasing or tension in an interaction. And so they just don't do it. They just don't do it. And then they're very, they can hold, all right, most guys can have a friendly conversation with a girl. I'm not doubting that. I'm not doubting that anybody watching this right now, or most people, could talk to the McDonald's cashier. They could talk to the gym girl attendant for 10 minutes about working out, about eating a McDouble, okay, or whatever. And that would be fine. Now the question is, are you actually making her feel something? Does she feel any sort of playfulness around you? Does she feel youthful and feminine? Or is she bored out of her complete mind? So this is the point where, I'm talking about being boring. I'm talking about not being try hard is the theme in this video, okay? I'm saying you don't have to be that try hard. That isn't an excuse to not make the girl feel something. Okay, I can have very low energy. I can talk to a girl like this and be very controlled and emotionally strong, and I can make the girl feel something. A lot of things. The fourth reason that you need to have emotional strength in an interaction with a girl, you need to have the quality of being self-sufficient. This takes a masculinity to not go out and seek validation from the woman that you're talking to and me. And so I think that a lot of nice guy behavior, actually I'm pretty certain that it comes from being a mama's boy, right? So you have a very tight relationship with your mother growing up. And I think that you need to identify that tendency to want validation from women like it's your mother. And so I used to do this when I went out. I used to go out and I used to look for women. I used to be like, Mom, please validate me. Please like me. Please think that what I'm doing is cool, interesting, entertaining. I need you to like me. I need a hug. I need a gold star. Women do not like mama's boys. I don't know if that's something you've noticed. They do not like mama's boys. They like daddy's boys, or I don't know what you say that. I don't know how you call that really. They like dudes who are self-sufficient when it comes to their own self-worth. They're like, oh, I don't need you to like me. Oh, I don't need you to make me feel good. Women like a leader, an emotional leader. Okay, so how does a man develop this attractive masculine trait of emotional strength? Well, I can tell you one thing for certain. It doesn't happen from watching YouTube videos or mentally masturbating or understanding theory. Okay, it happens from being battle tested. It happens from being weathered in the flames of approaching that cute brunette girl in the coffee shop, of being rejected, of being tested hundreds, thousands of times. Okay, and most guys, they just try to go out and wing it when they're doing this. They don't have a system for actually learning this skill, so they're gonna be able to endure the flame until they reach a point where they start to gain some momentum, they start to get some success, meaning, going on dates with women that they're attracted to. And so what happens is, they never make it over that learning curve and they quit. They go back to, whatever dating strategy they were using in the past. All right, if you want a system, if you want accountability to actually learn this, to become the most confident version of yourself and date the women that you're really excited about, and you want my personal help, then I will personally guide you and make sure that you win. And if you'd like to book a free call with me, then you can click the link below this video and book a free strategy session. We'll map out a strategy for your dating life, and I'll show you how you can start getting some results right away. A lot of guys that I work with, they can start getting dates within a week. Really, it depends on your history, obviously. But that's all I have for the video today, guys, and I'll see you soon.